Good evening and welcome to the first Berges lecture of 2016. I'm Professor Pat Murphy and I'd like to welcome all of you here tonight. And before we get started, I'd just like to introduce Ann Pillay, who's Jack Berges' daughter, who's with us, continuing the family tradition. So Ann, welcome. So our speaker tonight is Tom Carmazzi, who's CEO of Tuthill Corporation, and he's going to tell you all about the company in a few minutes. It's headquartered in Burr Ridge, Illinois. As CEO, Tom has but one job, in his words, and that's to bring Tuthill's compass to life. And that's spelled C-O-M-P-A-S-S, and he is also going to discuss that in depth. Tom has shared his journey and story of Tuthill becoming a conscious company in many distinguished forums, and he has an interest for about 10 years of hits and misses, as he says. Witness the company's undergone a profound transformation that began with his own personal journey and Tom and a couple of his close collaborators, and according to him, it's still very much underway. 2 decades ago, Tom was completely unable to foresee the path his life would take. He's busy scaling the corporate ladder, first in the financial world, next in business development, finally in manufacturing. He leaned heavily on numbers, hard work, and courage. Who could have guessed that now Tom would find himself happy as he possibly could be in a place where affairs of the heart are keys to the castle. Earlier, Tom thought his education was mostly complete once he collected his degrees from the University of Cincinnati, and he's a native Ohioan, and he studied accounting there, and has an MBA from the University of Chicago. Tom is married to his high school sweetheart, and she is in the audience. His wife, Deb, is sitting back there, and Tom said to not have her throw anything during the presentation. They're parents of 2 children, a boy and a girl, ages 20 and 23. In addition to his many Chicago activities, Tom is a member of the Parents Board at Westminster College in Salt Lake. So tonight, his lecture is entitled, Ethics Are a Reflection of Your Culture. Do you have the culture you want? ? Tom, pleasure to have you at Notre Dame. Let's give him a warm Notre Dame welcome.
Oh, good evening. Yeah. It's quite an honor to be here at the University of Notre Dame and be talking about ethics. I mean, I always had this picture of you all as having the highest standard, the highest bar. And so to be here tonight talking to you about this subject, my goal really is that you walk out that door either with confirmation or with a different perspective. That maybe how you saw ethics and how you lived ethics, that maybe there's another perspective that you may want to pursue. So Pat's been very specific with me. I've got 45 minutes in which to do that. So we're going to get started. So in preparation, I was out surfing your website. Is that really loud? It seems loud here. So I was out surfing your website, and I saw this quote, and it really resonated with me because it talked about the human community before the business community. And at Tuthill, what we talk about is it's the people model before the business model. Folks have asked me, say, Tom, gosh, can you share with me the business model of Tuthill? And I say, you know what, be glad to do that, but let me first share with you the people model. Because for us, that's where it all starts. And so, I say I am technology challenged, but I thought I could handle the clicker. So it says there is that we believe that ethics is a byproduct of culture and not vice versa. And so what culture do you have? And do you really have the culture you want? So again, I've been asked, folks will say, Tom, I want to create a culture. And I say, you already have one. You already have one. Is it the one you want? And so how do I know that? Well, whether it's your study group, whether it's the university, whether it's a football team, whether it's a for-profit or not-for-profit, there's a dialogue that goes around at certain spots, be it a break, be it at the water cooler, at the coffee pot, at lunch, at dinner. You'll hear employees say things like, or students say things like, I was working on this project. God, I loved it. It was so cool. And the people I was working with, they listened to me. I could see how I was contributing. I felt like they cared about me. I felt like I was part of something bigger. That's one type of culture. Now, I'll paint a dramatic difference. The other is, oh my God, I don't know if I'm going to have a job tomorrow. And my boss, I don't think he even knows my name. I have no idea if I'm relevant. And by God, when I go home every night, I don't know if I had a good day or not. I'm not even measurable. Okay? So if you think about the invitation to do the right thing in those two different cultures, at Tuthill, we believe that when folks are highly engaged and excited about what they do, we don't have to talk about culture. We don't have to talk about ethics, because they will choose to do the right thing. And over our 10-year tenure of pursuing this journey, that's what we've found. So, the way this is going to work is it's going to be participative. So I'm going to ask questions, and I'm dying to hear your perspectives. So I want this to be a little bit of a dialogue versus me just, I'll tell you what, I'll bore you to death. Okay, so I'm really looking for your insights and your perspectives. And so throughout the next 40 minutes, I'm going to ask you some questions, and I really want to hear what you're thinking. So you ready to do that? Yeah. All right. So here's kind of the nuts and bolts of Tuthill. And there's a lot of words here. That's our corporate office. But what's really important on this slide, the key thing that's important on this slide is that, first off, it's a family-owned business, 125 years, owned by the Tuthill family. Jay Tuthill, fourth generation, owns 100% of the stock. Fifth generation is in queue at one of our businesses in Springfield, Missouri. Okay, we're a manufacturer, kind of Rust Belt. We make industrial products. They go in places that are kind of a sticky chocolate mess, kind of rugged. And the cool thing is when our customers flick the switch, they run. They are not the least expensive, but they are the best value. And yes, I'm highly biased. Okay. Also, you see up there that we started this journey about 10 years ago. Okay, and you'll see that we're also doing financially well, and we do make stuff at various parts around the globe. But that's kind of the nuts and bolts. The story I really want to share with you is who we are becoming. And so I'd like right now to show you a video. It's not a long one. It's only 3 minutes and 11 seconds. And then we're going to talk about it.
Every day, we go through the motions. But where are we going? We're focused on what's in front of us. But are we paying attention to what's within us? Each of us is living. But are we truly alive? Aliveness comes from the original pump, the perfect pump, the heart. Call it our soul, our spark, our fire. There's a core within each of us, calling us to live the lives we were born to live. When we answer that call, it wakes us, makes us open our eyes wider, reach our arms out further, and do what makes our hearts beat faster. It's a pulse so strong and a beat so loud, it invites others to join us. One by one, we become many, and the workforce becomes a life force. At Tuthill, we trust our hearts, and we stand for aliveness. It's why we made our first pump, back when Tuthill was a brick company, to save the lives of horses hauling clay from the quarry. And for more than a century, we've been pumping our hearts into everything we do. We make real things that really make a difference, and dare to make them better every day. But we're not just making pumps. We're making space for the original pump to go from thumping to thriving, from beating to unbeatable. We defy dead ends and say no to numb, so we can all experience the grand possibilities of life. At Tuthill, we don't just come to work, we come alive. And when we come alive, the world comes along.
Whew. I've seen that probably 100 times, and I just love it. The voice in that video is Jay Tuthill, the owner of Tuthill. The people in that video, about 80% of them are either Tuthill employees or Tuthill customers. We don't have anyone that's kayaking, but the whole spirit of that video is about aliveness. And yet, there's two parts to that video. Any of you see yourself in that video? Who could see themselves in that video? A couple spots. Yeah. I know. Anybody ever have these days where the guy was doing this? Anyone have those? I know I do. Yeah. Fortunately, I have more of the back half of that video than the front half. But the whole spirit of that video is, how do we go from this surviving to truly thriving? How do we come alive? How do we come alive? And so you look at this video and say, that's kind of cute, 3 minutes, 11 seconds, it's kind of motivating, kind of. But Tom, I mean, how do you bring that whole live in a corporation? How do you take it from a video to traction? Well, as Pat had talked about, the compass. The compass. This is our version of a vision, mission, statement. We had one we called the Vision, Mission, Values brand that lasted for 9 years. And then last year we enhanced it to the compass because it seemed more relevant to where we were in the journey. And so I'm going to give you just a moment to read that. And then I'm going to ask a real clever question like, what's there for you? So as you read that, what was there for you? Feel free to just blurt it out. You don't have to raise your hands here. This would be the participation portion. Yes, sir.
It could be the first step in creating the kind of culture your company wants to have, to actually put it in writing, something that people can kind of use as a foundation.
Yeah, something that's tangible for them, something that they can reference to and see over and over again. And of course, you know, little pocket reminders. I need stuff like this for me. Yeah, so there's a structure for them. What do you see in those words?
Things that make a difference.
Things that make a difference. What is it about that catches you?
Well, I can't speak for everyone, but my motivation is to find a career where I can make something tangible that has a difference, whether whether it's a service or a product.
Yeah. So what I hear you speaking to is that you want it to make a difference for you.
Right. Well, for the world.
Yeah. And so, making real things that really make a difference, that's one of the key questions is who is that for? A lot of times folks will say, well, obviously it's for the customers. Or they'll say, for J. Tuthill. Yeah, you're dash darn right. And it's for the employees, for the suppliers, for everyone that we come in contact with. So what else do you see there in the compass that seems maybe different to you than what you've seen in other vision and mission documents? Yes, sir.
To me, it seems to be put together with a lot of passion. So it's not. To me, it seems to be put together with a lot of passion. So it's not, astounding impact and creating the uncommon. This is not the kind of things I'm used to reading on a mission on this type of a slide. So it seems to be really passionate. I think it goes back to the video where you talk about the real pump, the heart. So
Yes. Well, thank you. Thank you. So what do you all think about that word up there, supporting? It says ingenious company supporting flourishing families and spirited communities. Just one word, supporting. What does that mean to you? The common good. Yeah, the common good. I'm sorry, you had your hand up?
You're doing more than just making a product. You're creating an entity that supports its employees, its customers, everybody, and it's all working, like you said, towards the common good.
Yeah. Yeah, so that ingenious company, I'm sorry, please. No, that ingenious company, it's the fuel for the rocket, but it's not the end game. It's just the fuel. It's important, absolutely it's important, but it's not the end all. So the company is not the end all. The company is the fuel. So then you see the making real things that really make a difference. And then you see heart, head, hands, specifically in that order. Heart, head, hands. And if you try that on right now, and you think about when you think from your heart versus you think from your head, or you feel from your heart versus think from your head, does that feel different to you? How many when you just try that on, it feels just a little bit different? There's something different about it. Yeah. I know for me, I tend to think broader. I tend to think more optimistic. When I go to my head, it's like, I got to figure it out, But when I come from my heart, it's like, head up, shoulders back. So then we talk about our common values, but really to create the uncommon. Our common values are integrity, respect, responsibility, awareness, courage, and excellence. But here you see these uncommon, a life full of curiosity, clarity, grit, grace, gratitude, and love. Love in a document like this? What are we, crazy? No. When we were creating this document, I sought some outside counsel because, this is a little different. Person said, you know what? Got to take love out of there. It doesn't belong in this kind of document. I see you really like it, Tom, but no, touchy-feely kind of stuff. And of course, it's still there. That grace, that gratitude, and the love were three words that I wanted. I'm 60 years old, and quite frankly, for many of my business career, those weren't words that I thought of. As Pat talked about, I am conditioned, okay? So accounting undergrad, CPA, go to University of Chicago, quant school, right? I'm conditioned to look at the numbers. And by golly, I was really good at it, okay? But I didn't see faces. I saw numbers. I saw expense. I don't even like talking about that, okay? So for me, it's like, if it's in this document and it's here every day, it'll call me forth. And then the last is the brand. It's like the brand, when we talk about products and services, you see the brand is not products and services, it's us. It's us. It's who we are, what we do, then what we say. And when does this start? It starts with me here now, right now. Let's go back to the purpose, to wake the world. That's 7 billion people. I mean, that's like, whoa. I'd like to retire someday, So, but how's that going to happen? And there's just this line that says, when we come alive, the world comes along. How many here have heard of oxytocin? It's a hormone in our bodies, right? Okay, this hormone does a multitude of things, but one of the things that it does is it's known as a relationship hormone. So when we're in a relationship, I don't mean to make Pat feel weird here, but let's say that Pat and I were longtime friends, and tonight was the first time that we had seen each other in years, and we'd come through some pretty challenging times in our lives. And so when I saw Pat, I went up and I gave him a genuine hug, and it meant so much to me that I actually maybe set my head on his shoulder. And I didn't give him that quick pat and break. It was like I held on. Well, that would release oxytocin in me. It also would release it in Pat, because he would feel that care, he would feel that love, and it would be released in him. Anyone that saw that happen, it'd actually be released in them as well. When oxytocin is released, what it does is it actually improves your creativity. It actually improves your immune system. It actually expands your peripheral vision. So we're designed for that sentence to happen, believe it or not. When we come alive, the world comes along. And it starts with me here, now. So, ready to have some fun? Yeah, I love it. All right. So stand up. I know you got stuff in your laps. I'm going to ask you to stand up. Okay. You want to make sure you're at least arm's length apart. No, I'm just kidding. So what we're going to do is I'm first going to explain what we're going to do, and then we'll actually do it. So this is your last week, just your last week. How alive and living a life full of were you? Were you on a scale of 1 to 10? And your right arm is your barometer. Okay, so this is a 10, this is a 1, this is a 5, 7, 3, okay? Now, the tricky part of this, I'm going to ask you to do this with your eyes closed. Okay, so make sure your feet are spread apart so you don't, toddle over. Okay, so, so you ready? So I'm going to ask you to close your eyes, and then we're going to do this. So first, close your eyes. Okay, in the last week, just the last week, how much were you alive and living a life full of curiosity, clarity, grit, grace, gratitude, and love on a scale of 1 to 10? Stick your right arm out as to where the last week you were. Okay, so now I'm going to ask you to leave your arms there. Open your eyes and look around. Open your eyes and look around. Okay. Now you can be seated. Put your arms down and be seated. So, so what did you notice? What did you notice? I'm sorry?
We're all pretty good.
Hey, they're all sitting around here. Yeah. Yeah, there were some that were here, and there were some that were here, but a lot of them sitting right in here. Yeah. You might imagine I've done this a couple of times, and this is pretty common, right around here. So let me ask you. Let's say that you were a 5, and that last week, you just went from a 5 to a 6. That's all. Just went up one slot, one space, from a 5 to a 6. How would that week have been different for you? Yes, sir.
I'm having a lot of difficulty with my partner management right now.
Yeah.
And so not having to spend a week dealing with them would definitely raise something like that.
Definitely would have raised it up higher? Yeah. And so, the curiosity in that question is, of course, the math. Someone say, well, Tom, obviously it's 20% better. I mean, come on. But the question is it the simple math or is it something else? And you're like, whoa, I mean, my week would have been a lot different if I wasn't messing with that challenge. Someone said to me once, I'd be a heck of a lot easier to live with. I didn't want to ask any clarifying, non-leading questions on that. So one last question on this. Wherever you put yourself, who put you there? Who put you there? Ourselves, yeah. Right here. Yeah. So whenever you're having one of those 4 or 5 days, never underestimate the choices you make can change where that is. You have control over your aliveness. You have your control over a life full of. So never underestimate that. So why is this so important? So our friends at Gallup did a survey in 2004, and they were checking on the level of engagement of U.S. workers. And this simple pie chart paints a pretty bleak picture. 70% of the workforce was disengaged in the United States. 70%. That's just a number. Anyone want to guess what that calculated out to be in terms of the impact on productivity across the United States? This is a financial number. Anyone want to guess what that number is? $450 billion. Yeah, it's a big number. $450 billion. And if you say the average salary of an American worker, let's say it's 50 grand, you all that are pretty quick with math in your head, you know how many millions of workers that is? Whoa. So when we can capture that 70%, whether it's as a nation or whether it's as a company, whether it's as a study group, amazing things happen. Amazing things. So, versus me telling you so, this guy wrote this book called Firms of Endearment. That's what FOE stands for. Wrote a couple years ago, and it really was identifying those companies in which the employees were really jazzed and highly engaged. And you can see the Firms of Endearment companies compared to S&P 500 outperformed over the last 10 years 4-1. Jim Collins wrote a book about good to great several years ago. And he highlighted in these good to great companies how much they outperform the S&P. You can see the Firms of Endearment where the folks are jazzed and showing up. They even outperform the good to great companies. There's another author, Patrick Lencioni, wrote a book called The Advantage. And he came through the culture door. He called it organizational health. So here's company A and company B. Company B, so on the left-hand axis is skills and talents. Okay? So company A, on a scale of 1 to 10, they're at a 5. Company B, scale of 1 to 10, they're at an 8. That's all you know about those two companies. That's all you know when someone gives you $100 and says you have to invest it in company A or company B. How many are going to choose B? I mean, it's a logical choice, right? I mean, come on. I mean, we're business students here. We know how to do that stuff. Well, of course, there's more to this picture, right? So Lencioni basically says, well, wait a minute. What if company A has an organizational environment or a culture in which folks can play full out, so much these cats are playing to 80% of their potential? Still, it's only 4 out of 10. But let's go back to company B. It's a backstabbing, fear-based culture. That's 3 out of 10. What we've seen at Tuthill is over the long term, you will not outperform your culture. They've got extremely talented cats in company B, and yet they're not going to bring it. They're not going to bring it. They're the ones at the water cooler talking about, I don't know if my boss even cares about me. I don't know if he even knows my name. Okay? So this is external stuff. Let's take a look at Tuthill. It's a little bit busy of a chart. The green bars are realized gross margin. And so I said I was on this journey. We've been on this journey for 10 years. So that's 2006 to year-to-date 2016. The green bars, which is really sales minus your variable cost. You can see that's been going up every year from 34% to now a little over 47%. The blue line is operating working capital as a percent of sales. Operating working capital is inventory plus accounts receivable minus accounts payable. Okay, that is a percent of sales. It went to go lower. You can see that's been declining. That orange kind of line, that's debt as a percent of sales. Today it's 0. And so, as you look at that, the green bar is growing and the blue line is getting smaller. From a financial point of view, why do I care that that gap is growing? It's just numbers. I'm a growing business. Why do I care that that gap is growing? Yes, sir.
You're doing more with less.
Doing more with less? Yeah, so my efficiency is getting a heck of a lot better. Yeah? Yeah. So as a lot of companies grow real fast, what is it that usually limits their growth? What do they want that they can't have or they have difficulty getting? Access to capital. Absolutely right. Access to capital. Yeah. That difference that's up there on that slide, we fund our own growth. We can fund our own growth. We're not beholden to anybody. Just think about that. That's the best ratio amongst our competition. Pretty cool stuff. Okay? Right now, we have the equivalent of 40% of our sales on the balance sheet in cash. So we're ready to run. We are ready to run. So let's go back to the employees. So this is what's required of an employee at Tuthill. Okay, and so there's 3 bars here. That first bar is the talents and skills. And so we talk about that as that's the resume. That's what you do. We also say that's the entry fee. That bar in the middle is continuous improvement. We also talk about learning. We're looking for folks that want to learn and grow, continue to learn and grow. And we actually talk about, if you want to go back to the comfort zone, that's okay. Go back there and rejuvenate, but we're going to pull you back into the learning zone. We're going to intentionally put you back in the learning zone. But you got to want to go. We'll have folks that say, I just want to do my job. Come on, let me do my job. It's like, well, we're talking about more than a job. It's talking about waking the world. We all got to play full out. Then the bar on the right is the our way behaviors. So I do a lot of interviewing. And believe it or not, I'm interviewing, gosh, probably 95% of my questions are on that bar on the right, on the our way behaviors. So I'll ask questions like, who are you? Because they've told me what they do on the resume, but who are they? When you're in your final hours, sounds kind of a morbid question, but you're in your final hours, what do you want to say you've accomplished before you take your last breath? I also am very interested in the questions they ask me. So I usually divide up 50-50. 50% I ask questions, 50% they ask questions. I learn a lot about who people are by the questions they ask. By the questions they ask. Because are they asking mechanical questions? Are they asking really heartfelt questions? So that's the micro. That's what we're looking for in terms of our employees. And we have structures set up so that literally the job description talks first about the values and the behaviors. The evaluations, the first thing we talk about in evaluations are the values and the behaviors. So the structure's aligned to this. Aligned to this. So this is another one of our fond icons, and we have really clever names for things. This one's called the 4 sticks. So, but the whole spirit of this is that back to that leader, that alive leader, when he or she is climbing and learning and growing, they will pull up the second bar. They will pull up the team. And as the team climbs and grows, they'll pull up those structures. The rigor in those structures, the robustness of those structures will grow. And as those grow, guess what? We get the results. And it's sustainable. It's sustainable. It's not an aberration. And if you look at those differently, those first 2 bars are the people model. The last 2 bars are the business model. Okay? So, what's required of me? Here I am, CEO, hanging out at this company. What's required of me? The top part of that is I say the traditional CEO stuff. You know, I got to hold folks accountable to the vision and the goals. You know, I got to kind of make sure that we have all the structures in place that we need. Okay, I also got to make sure I'm literate on those things that are important to us. I also got to get out of the corporate office and talk to people. The bottom part of that is what I call the Chief Aliveness Officer. And that is the journey we're on requires me to be more than just a traditional CEO. If I'm going to talk about these behaviors, I got to model them. I got to model them. And I got to tell you, there's days I want to do over. Absolutely. And I've been very, very fortunate that folks have let me back up. Because there's been times I've walked out of meetings, reflected, and walked back in and said, you know what, don't emulate that behavior. Don't emulate that. I'm sorry. And they've let me up. Now, I used to think, well, gosh, Tom, look at the org chart. Do they really have a choice? But you know what? I truly believe that they care about me, and they care about the journey we're on. There's the vulnerability, okay? Be the real me versus the CEO persona. The CEO persona sounds like this. I'm the smartest guy in the room. I got all the answers. How the heck else did I get this job? Right? It's just not true. It's just not true. I'm not the smartest guy in this room. Okay, I don't have all the answers. And there's mornings that I wake up and it's like, you know, that compass, that is big, man, that's huge. Am I the guy to pull this off? And I'll talk to people about that. And what they'll tell me is, Tom, you're not alone. You're not alone. Whoa, that means a lot to me. That means a lot to me, because you've always said, well, it's lonely at the top. Doesn't have to be. Doesn't have to be. It's my choice if I choose to be lonely. I don't like it. Humans are meant to be in relationship. Okay, and then there's this one here about attract and develop talent. And so within 5 minutes of an interview, I take this compass and I slide it across the table. And I say, so what's there for you? And so you can imagine that if I was more that traditional CEO, quarter to quarter kind of a guy like I've been for the majority of my career, they look at this and they go, just a piece of paper. I don't see that anywhere, especially in you. So I do a lot of that attracting, just really back to the first bullet point. How do I model those behaviors? How do I show up? And then, of course, the last one is dialogue. Dialogue on our journey. And try to get folks to tell me what's in it for them, because it's not what's in it for me. One of the things that really bugs me is when someone says, well, Carmazzi says, where's the ownership when they say that? Right here. So what's the probability we're going to have long-term success when everyone's waiting for what Carmazzi says? It's pretty remote, pretty remote. So I've shared a little bit of my background on that. You know, I was a quant jock. I love the numbers. You know, folks, I mean, obviously they're an expense. They're on the income statement. I mean, come on. You know, but more and more as I climbed in my journey, I yearned for more of the subjective. I yearned for things like this. I love these quotes. Okay, so these are quotes from folks that they've said to me during our journey. So the first one is, it says, my other company talked about it, you actually do it. Wow, that's pretty cool. Okay, and these are, you know, these are some folks that obviously have been around, and we think a lot of them, and they're hanging around. The next one, it says, you saved my marriage. So we have 2 leadership events, and they're 3-day sessions, kind of knees to knees, very, very intimate. And I'm front of the room for 4 of those a year, not because I'm the expert, but because I learn, I build a relationship, and I show promotion or support for that program. So I was fortunate enough to be front of the room for this lady's first session and also front of the room for her second session. On a break of the second session, she came up to me and she said, Tom, you saved my marriage. Wow. I said, you know, I'm honored that you think of me in that way, but I know I didn't do that. I didn't do that. You did that. I was not there when you had that dialogue with your husband. I was not there. You were there. You did that. So the next one says, I'm leaving. I know what I want. So part of these sessions, we really get to the core of what folks really want. Not what they think they have to want, not the should, have to, ought to, but from here, what they want. So we had a high potential. This guy was dynamite. He was running one of our plants, man. It was lights out. So he goes to one of our sessions. And just a little bit of a backstory here. When we first started this journey, I'm thinking, we're not going to lose anybody that we want to keep. This stuff is so cool, you know? So here, a hypo calls up and says, Tom, I got to go. I said, Nick, what's going on? He says, I want to go home. I want to go home. I said, tell me more. He says, well, I'm from Iowa. You all don't have a plant in Iowa. He said, I want to pick apples from the tree that I planted with my father. Now I want to pick those with my son. I want to teach my son to drive a tractor, like my dad taught me. I can't compete with that, nor do I want to. So we've had several folks leave once we've started this journey that we've wanted to keep. But when they told us why, 9 out of 10 times it's family-based. And it's how can I help? Next one, it says, if this impacts others 1/10 the impact it has on me, never stop. So I was asked to talk with this guy, myself and Don Mack, who heads up our Awaken University. And so Don and I were talking to this guy, and he shared the impact that our leadership training had on him. Told us over a half hour. When it was finished, I couldn't speak. You can ask my wife. That's pretty unusual. Okay? So he said, what's the matter, Tom? I said, I based on what you have shared, the courage that you displayed, I can't say anything. 2 hours later, back when I was right, I went out to him on the factory floor, and I said, Alan, I've never met a Medal of Honor recipient, but I think I saw one today. It's remarkable, remarkable. I'm going to skip the next one. Okay, and then it talks about, you've changed my life. So we hired a guy out of private equity, doing a dynamite job in private equity. Every 2 to 3 years he left, right? And I think when he came to us, quite frankly, he was planning on that. Well, he found out that, gosh, he really liked it here. And so he said, you've changed my life. I believe I'm home. The other is a line of business president. She said, I love my job. I mean, think about that. The stress, the pressure. She says, I love my job. And the last one was, I was giving a talk in Salt Lake City. A woman came up from a top 50 company, and she said, I'm quitting my job. I said, holy cow, what's going on? She said, I just listened to you talk and talk about your company. I realized I was just simply surviving, and I want to thrive, so I'm going to quit. The one I skipped over talks about being a hero. Well, that's me. That's me. I'm a recovering hero. I fight it every single day, okay? That adrenaline rush. Well, a hero needs 2 things. What do they need? Someone to save, absolutely right. They need a victim, and they got to find something else. The bad guy. Yeah, they got to find the bad guy. And I'd make those people up, whether they were real or not, right? Okay, so that was an adrenaline rush because I had my cape on so tight it was never coming off. I had a beeper. I had a phone, emails, voicemail messages, beeping. Man, I was important. The truth of the matter was I was holding those people small. So when they come up and tell me about something, I say, okay, now watch this. Here's what you want to do. Now what I say is, tell me more. What do you think you should do? How do you want to handle that? How do you know you've had the effect you want to have? They come back, it's, so what'd you learn? What do you want to do different? The whole time the ball is in their court. And what we talk about is people are creative, resourceful, and whole. If I hold them there. So, aha! So I've got another question for you. And then just a couple more slides and we're finished. This question is, who are you? Not what do you do, but who are you? So I want you to take a moment, really less than a moment, 20 seconds. I don't want you to think about it. I want you to come from here. Type it into your computer, type it into your phone, Write it down in your journals. But real quick, just blurt, who are you? So let me share a funny story, especially with my wife here. This will bring back some kind of challenging memories. So anyone been in a social situation and someone asks, what do you do? Right? It's a pretty common deal, okay? Well, that question bugs the living daylights out of me. I make stuff up, okay? I make stuff up. Before the end of the night, I tell them the truth, but in the moment, I make stuff up. And so Deb and I were having several families over after a soccer game, just a little brunch, you know, some coffee, some bagels, some fruit, you know. And so this woman comes up, she says, what do you do? I said, I'm a dairy farmer. No kidding, in Chicago, you're a dairy farmer. Absolutely right. Got a farm 25 miles from here, 200 head, milk 120 of them twice a day. I walk away, right? So Deb, being the good host she is, she's around pouring, you know, the cream and stuff in folks' coffee should they want it. Well, up in Chicago, our version of Kroger is Jewel. And so she's got her little Jewel container, and would you like some cream? Yes, I would. And so this woman goes up to Deb, and she says, what are you doing? Deb's like, well, she asked for some cream. I gave her some cream. She says, no, you've got your own dairy farm. What are you using Jewel for? I got the look, you know. But today, you know, when I think about who am I, you know, I used to say, well, I'm going to be a business leader. That's who I am. And you know what? I think about that more and more, and that's pretty limiting. My father, in February, had a very serious stroke. He's 91, World War II vet. He's lived a very full life, but this stroke has hit him hard. I left home at 18 not to return. And so since Dad has had his challenges, I've been spending much more time with him. And I'm blessed to be able to do that. And so who is a big part of who I am today is I'm a son. I'm a son. I'm going to be the best son that I possibly can, and I know I've got my limitations, but I'm all in. I'm all in. So what I ask is that you hold on to those things that you wrote down. And look at them a week from now or a month from now. And see if those still resonate, and if they don't, just keep thinking about who you are and who do you want to be. Because back to the choices, you get to choose. You get to choose. So, in summary, you know, really, this all comes down for us. When you think about ethics, it's really the ethics are a mirror into your culture, into your culture. And so how does that culture get created? Well, it's really how does leadership show up? And then do we have various structures which help support that? Okay, and then go heart, head, hands, repeat. Heart, head, hands, repeat. And that terrain, some days it's going to get very, very challenging. But never stop. Never stop. So, ethics are a choice, and people know what choice you make. So those of you that got colleagues and so, you know, if they came up to you and said, hey, did you know today I'm an 8 out of 10 on ethics? Put like a little sticker on their head. You know, you'd be going like, because you'd know. People don't tell you how ethical they are. It's what do they do? How do they show up? How do they show up? And so folks know how ethical you are because of the actions, what you choose to do. And if there's that moment in which you're still wondering, what should I do? This is a real toughie. This is a real challenge. I need guidance. Well, guess what? On this campus, I can't think of a better example or role model. A better example or role model. Holy cow. So, thank you very much. I've enjoyed the time. Thank you.
Let's open it to questions. Maybe let's do it have hands rather than my students know.
Yes, sir, sorry.
So you said at one time you kind of lived a life focused on numbers and kind of transitioned to the way you describe yourself now. Was there one particular moment that changed you? Was it a gradual process, or like what led you to sort of assess yourself the way you do now?
So when this started, I was 6'3", 230. The beatings have been that intense. So I wish I could say it was just once and I had an epiphany. But no, I've had multiple events. The first one that was the most impactful, but I needed others, was I was running a large plant. It had 1,500 people in the bargaining unit, and I was going to tell them they had to have a layoff. So I had all my charts and graphs, had all my numbers. I created all my models. I knew the number. It was perfect. So I finished it, blurted out, and the president of the union raised his hand. He says, Tom, I get that you're smart, but you know what really bugs us? You don't care. And before I could give some little tart reply, he says, just to prove the point, there's 26 people in the executive committee. Why don't you tell me their names, and I'll make it easy. Tell me their first names. I knew 3. That was a bad day. I came home, and Deb could tell I had really been hit. And she said, you know what you got to do? You got to work in that plant. They had 2 foundries, 1,200 machine tools, 1 million square feet under roof. And I worked my way from the core room all the way to assembly. But that was just the start. So I've had a lot. I've been really blessed that the people, quite frankly, have cared enough about me to have the courage to tell me. And it is a journey, as to which my wife will agree. But thanks. Yeah, I wish it were that easy, but for me, you know, they talk about the human condition. Well, for me, I'm the conditioned human. So. Yes, sir.
So a lot of what we've talked about in the early weeks here is that, you know, it's one thing to have a value statement and slap them up on the wall, but to really be impactful is, you know, especially the leadership, they have to live those values. And it seems like you've done a fantastic job at doing this. Could you give some examples of how you live this way and how you get your company to do that as well?
So the way that's been the most impactful for me recently is vulnerability. You know, is to let folks know that I am human, to let folks know that I have warts. So one of the things that I share with people, and they're usually surprised by what they don't know, is all the prep. So, as Pat will attest, you know, I wanted to get here at 4 o'clock. I wanted to get in this room. Deb knows this. I wanted to get this room and get comfortable. Because when I was a little kid, I was a world-class stutterer. So that little monkey is on my shoulder at all times saying, Tom, you're going to start stuttering. You're going to start stuttering. So I got to get in. I got to get comfortable. And I tell people, they're like, oh, my gosh. You know, how do you get up in front of people and talk? I prepare, and I know what words stick me. So it's just telling things like that, telling people that I don't know if I can pull this off. You know, that just lets folks know that I'm human. And also I ask for forgiveness. Because I'm not kidding, there are days I do some pretty stupid stuff, you know? And yet that allows other people to do the same. I had someone tell me, probably about 1.5 years ago, they said, Tom, never stop. Never stop being vulnerable. Never stop sharing, because it allows the rest of us to do the same. Because we thought around you we had to get it right, or else we were gone. That's pretty ugly. So, thanks. Yes, sir.
So we talked about culture basically flowing from top to bottom. You know, people would like to follow their leaders, and that basically brings the culture. But if it's not already there, I mean, you talked about being vulnerable. Suddenly one day you decide to be more vulnerable, be more caring, be more people-oriented. Once you have that realization, how long does it take to actually change the culture of the entire company? What challenges do you face when you're trying to transition from one kind of culture to another, which is more people-oriented?
So how do you create this culture, and what are the challenges? Yeah, and so first and foremost, behavior. So I got to best as I can try to live it. And also those other key leaders, because folks are always watching us. They're always watching us, okay? And so the first is behavior. The second, structures. So I talked about the job descriptions. So when we go to hire someone, the very first section on that job description is the values and those behaviors. That's the first thing we talk about. When I give my reviews of my staff twice a year, first thing on the eval, the employee evaluation, is those values and those behaviors. That's the first thing we talk about. So folks know that we're serious. And unfortunately, I think I said this, that I've removed more folks for deviation from those behaviors than I have for results. So it's, it is day in and day out, trying to do the best that you can do, and when you don't, ask for forgiveness and keep climbing. And I know it's like, boy, Tom, I want a silver bullet. You know, for me, it's not been that easy. For me, it's not been that easy.
Is it easier to find people who have the right skill set as well as that kind of, behavioral personality that you want to have in your company?
So I'm getting better at it. My batting average, I might be in the major leagues by now, but initially, yeah, I would get cut from the major leagues with my batting average. It's so hard to get folks to talk to about who they are, because we've been conditioned, if we show we're vulnerable, that means we're weak and we're not good enough. And so they protect themselves. And so it's like, how do I kind of get through that? And the only way I can find is time. So if I'm hiring a direct report, it's a 15 or 20-hour gig. I mean, it's all different types. It's not like it's all one event. But I'll ask them again and again and again, maybe a different venue, just to see if who they are. And that's been one of the blessings with Jay Tuthill. So Jay's the owner. I've known him for a little over 17 years. That guy is true. I mean, just remarkable, remarkable. So he's been a real blessing in our journey as well.
Alex, over there.
Yes.
You talked earlier about leaving a legacy. What do you think about things yourself? When you retire and you're done, what do you want people at your company to say about you?
About me?
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to have them say that I was the poster child for someone that was on the journey and would screw up and get up. Didn't try to get it right, but tried to keep climbing. That I was very consistent, that I was fair, and the home run over the center field wall would be that I cared about him. That I cared about him. Yes, sir.
When you introduce a new program or this company sort of values before that, what do you think actually the most junior employees in the company, what changes they see on a daily basis? I mean, what actually, how are they affected on a daily basis by these?
Initially, very little. Very, very little. And so one of the goals of Awaken You, which is our university, is to have events at traction, is what we call it. So we want to involve from the operators to the president in events. Previously, we called those Kaizen events. You've heard that term, right? But what we do to those Kaizen events is we breathe in the our way behavior. And so if things are going kind of cattywampus in a Kaizen event, which those things by design, they're very time compressed, big task, and so behaviors will get kind of triangular. And so it's like, let's stop, let's dialogue. We have these things called 3x5 cards for, again, real clever stuff. But we get folks to write down what they're feeling, what they're thinking. And then it's not like, well, why the heck you feeling like that? It's like, no, let's talk about it. Tell me more. What did I say that caused that reaction? So it really is, and it's throughout the organization, getting them involved and getting them to take ownership of it. Because as I said before, if that compass is mine, we're not going anywhere. It's got to be all of ours. Thanks.
Two more questions.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned that as part of the changing of the culture that you had to let some people go that weren't necessarily underperforming employees but weren't aligning with your ethical principles you were trying to install. Could you talk a little bit about difficult conversations you had to have with people about this?
So first off, as as a recovering hero, what did I think I could do to them? I could save them, by golly. I can change them. I can make them better. You know? And so I initially thought, well, I've screwed up. So I'd say, so let me be clear. So remember back in the interview, remember the job description, we talked about these things and how they show up? In the last week or so, I've seen this, and it's not been an isolated incident, because everyone has a bad day. I mean, I've said I have. So it's not like a one and done, you know, unless it's something really heinous, but that's very rare. It's usually a pattern, okay? And so can be things, and I call it integrity or lack of respect, okay? So it's not the integrity of a lie. I mean, that's just bold-faced, you're out. I mean, if you intentionally lied to me or anyone else, but it's, I say I'm gonna do something, it's like, oh gosh, yeah, you know, I had to take my kid to school. I'm sorry, yeah. It's that time, oh my gosh. The next day, or the next week, it's something similar. And it's again, and it's again. And the dialogue goes like this, you know what? I was real serious about the compass. We're all serious about it. We can't wake the world unless that happens. And your behavior says you don't want to be here. And we've talked about this. Not only once, but twice, and 3 times. It's time for you to go. And I really wish you the best of luck. Because I hope there's some place that brings you alive, because it's evidently not here. And away they go. So it's that kind of a dialogue. But it's really, the one and done is only when someone does something. I mean, you just know at their core, you don't want to hang out with them. But that's extremely rare.
Last question.
Yes.
How did you kind of roll this program out to your company? Where did you start, and how did you take it company-wide?
So first off, Jay Tuttle and I, so in our first vision, mission, values brand, it said we're going to have a seismic impact on our world, and people didn't engage with that. It's like, what the heck does that mean? So we had to somehow have something that they could grab onto. And so Jay and myself, a guy named Chad Gabriel, who's in charge of seismic branding, you know, contracted with a company that helps you find your purpose. And when that came out, and it's like, okay, we gotta update our compass. And so we got a group of people together and really said, so here's the old vision, mission, values brand, and here's something that's kind of wacky. And we got 3x5 cards, got all their thoughts. And then Jay and I went in a room and kind of evolved to just one, and then went back again and said, so what do you think? And this was over a 6-month period, back and forth and back and forth. And at one time, Jay sent me an email late at night. He says, this is version 6012V. Oh my God, this is getting way out of hand. But it really was just a back and forth amongst the employees. I asked some folks externally, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And then we rolled it out. And surprisingly, I was amazed as to how much folks wanted the old values to be listed. They want them still in that document because the belief was, gosh, you've been aligning everything to those values and you take them away, they're gone. I said, I don't think so, you know. And the other, quite frankly, was me, because I was attached to the old vision, mission, values brand. I'd stood up in front of groups like this. If I ever leave Tuthill, I'm taking that with me. That's the best darn document ever created. So now, if I change that, my integrity, I thought, was in jeopardy. So one of the biggest roadblocks was me. And Jay did a great job of helping me kind of be more aware. So.
Thank you, Tom. It was a great speech.
Thank you very much.